Right, so pleasant good morning. Welcome to the NEBOSH National General Certificate. So as I mentioned, we are on chapter 4. We have actually touched 4.1 already, and that is on recording, and it's also on the class WhatsApp group and the YouTube channel, right? If anyone is looking at this video other than our students, I did mention that I have a bit of the dry cough, and so that may make it a bit difficult where I have to sort of consciously kind of try to keep that down anyway, right? For today's class. All right. If you have your books though, we are on so what I'm doing, I'm going to 4.3 and I'll come back to 4.2. Right? And the reason is because, well, we were on if you remember the last class is going to be right on the other slide, right? So the last class would have been let me just read this for you. To facilitate meaning towards the following themes: review of health and safety performance and auditing. That's today's class. But last class, right? We would have been looking at active and reactive monitoring. Like an active indicator is anything that is good, right? And the book has some if you want to go back and watch 4.1. So the good, I mean, and you could just make that up anyway. Like the good indicators is things like training, anything that sounds positive, right? Page 6 of chapter 4, sampling tours, anything that sounds positive, inspections. And what we said is when you look at the case study is asking you for like 10, 15, 18 indicators. And, it doesn't really have that amount in terms of the textbook. But the concept is that if you understand that an active indicator is anything that is positive, well then, as you read the case study, you can see what is positive and you can just take that, right? And so I'll just mention one example here. So if you read a case study and it says the CEO meets personally with the new employees, well, then you can't ignore that, right? It's not going to be limited to what's in the book. It's sort of limited to your case study or expansive to the case study, but the case study is limited because it's only 2 pages long. So what I've decided to do 4.3 is because audits is a proactive indicator. So I thought I would link that, right? Like when they have types of active and reactive, well, the active would be anything that is good, right? So in a way, an audit is good. So let's just kind of tie this in here one time because it belongs in the category of active indicators then, right? So do you all understand that? Like an audit is good. There are people who may debate that. And if you look at your book, you must see it too. If you turn your page, you want to turn your page a bit, into audits page 32, you'll see they have advantages and disadvantages, but I would say an audit is stress. I wouldn't say an audit is bad because the outcome of an audit is actually good. Well, I mean, I want to say like it's good because when you do an audit and you pass, well then it's sort of like a boosting point then. You can say, like um Junior Sami is now ISO certified, right? Or Junior Sami is now STOR certified. So the process though is stressful, but when you get the certificate, it is worth it then. You understand that? So I wouldn't personally, I mean, audits belong in proactive and active, and I'll put it right there because I can't change it from there. But just to tell you that even though this one may be positive, the part of getting the certificate is actually a bit stressful anyway, right? So if I can drop down to audits here, you can have like all of this is coming up to not to shape for me to read it, but this is actually piece of this is 4.4, right? If we look at 4.4 review health and safety performance, that's 4.4. But I said today we're going to focus on 4.3. So if we could come back to 4.3 a bit here. I could read this and come up to audit and it's not a stress, right? So review of health and safety performance. So types of information to gather to review health and safety performance. Look at your key performance indicators. And that's what we're doing actually, right? So look at your maintenance records, This is when they review performance. Look at the number of sign-off actions. Are you getting the actions done? And if so, well, then good. If not, well, then why not? Look at your quality assurance reports, environmental audits, emergency response. And then you can know, well, if the workers are getting to their muster point, on time within 3 to 5 minutes, and, well, everything is okay, there's no issue. Well, I suppose that means that your performance is where it should be. If the workers are not hearing the alarm, workers are complaining that, um, maybe the muster point area should have been covered. It's unsheltered, right? All of those are issues you need to work on anyway. Reporting on health and safety performance, you need to be accurate, otherwise the wrong action will be taken. Performance can be summarized graphically, and you all may remember that from your secondary school, if you all did SDAs and stuff. And if you move on to the degree next year, right? You know, part of the degree is a project, and you do have to put pie charts and bar charts and stuff in it, right? So graphs help the workforce see how they are performing. It's a good motivating tool. Companies around the world, not just London Stock Exchange, report it as part of the annual performance statement, right? So, um, I mean, there are no questions in this, but remember, not everything, folks, is exam. What I'm trying to say is that when you collect your KPIs for the month, what is the KPIs? The KPIs is the thing from last week, the positive indicators and the negative for the month. So let's say, of course, this is August, and you have collected that you have done, you have done 30 inspections. It's not the end of August yet, right? So I'll just probably put, you have done 10 inspections for the month of August. But preceding that, would have been the month of September, the month of, so not September, preceding, sorry, the month of July and June. So let's say you got 30, 30, 10. And then you also check your negative indicators. So let's say for August, you had one accident, but the month preceding to that, you had zero. The month preceding to that, you had zero. Let's come back to this one, right? The month preceding to August, you had 30 inspections. That was July. Then you had 30 for June, right? So normally when you go to present this, I'm talking to you all now as a regular safety. So most companies, when you get to work, then those of us who, I mean, if you're doing this for work anyway, right? When you get into the companies, they'll ask you to present your KPIs. Now, you can present it in a report, but some companies have you presented, well, it's in a report, but you have to present it live, meaning you present it in front of your managers and directors, and charts help a lot. So you can just trend, this is your health and safety performance. So you can trend the number of, you can plot it, I guess. That's what I'm trying to say. This could be June, right? So I guess you all know the idea, right? The marker isn't working that well, right? Let me just try to do one for you all, right? Despite the fact, like I said, there's no exam question with this at this level. We have seen these kind of things at the diploma level. So this is June, this one will be July, and this will be August. The marker is disappearing, right? For some strange reason. So this is August, and then so your plot then for June, we had, if you check a number of inspections, you can say 10, 20, 30, so that's 30 there, 30. And well, of course, what I'm doing here is like a line graph, right? For August, so far is 15, right? If that's when they call it to sort of, so you'll see consistent then, right? So consistent, and then, but then you can explain this drop, right? You can explain that drop because, you have been asked to present, in the middle of August. It's not the end of August, is it, right? So these are good visuals. It's a good motivating tool anyway, right? So keep a note of that. In the real world, not really for NEBOSH level 3, but in the real world, when you collect your KPIs, right? Again, if you forget, just go back and look at the lesson. Number of accidents, number of complaints, number of days away from work. That's the negative ones. The positive ones, how much audits you did, how much inspections you did, how much training you did, and the list goes on, right? You can present it on a graph, and then that's a very good tool. I used to do it, and a lot of companies up to this week, I was, with a company, and they had required their safety to present their KPIs as how we used to present it in Massey, meaning you go up in front of everybody. If you have a big group of companies, Massey was hundreds of workers, of course, but the safeties used to come together. Anybody here from Massey? Anybody here? I mean, and Massey always have vacancies, right? If it's Massey Motors, Massey Stores, you should apply. Massey Gas, Wood Group, Wood as they call them now. Massey always have vacancies, right? It just depends on put your application inside. They do ever advertise, or if they advertise, they're probably trying to build up their stock of resumes, right? But so all the safeties that meet and you present in front of everybody. So like 50 people, you're presenting in front of, right? So just know to remember, I said not everything is exam. There's actually the practicality where when you get the qualification, you have to work, and there is no case study then. The case study is you and your company, right? So there are some things that the questions don't come like that, and I've said that to you all, but I know that piece of skill I just taught you there is something that you'll have to present, right? So feeding into action plans as part of continuous improvement. Reviewing performance helps an organization become more specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time bound. And they refer to that as SMART, right? Reviewing performance helps to fine tune action plans. Action plans help an organization focus on continual improvement, right? So that was actually 4.4. I wasn't going to read it, but that's actually next week work. We do it already, right? Check your book, 4.4. So let's go back to 4.3. I have actually turned my page. I turned my page to 4.4 as I was reading it, right? So auditing, let's have a go at it. So auditing, the purpose of auditing, to objectively reveal and understand the strengths and weaknesses of an organization's management system. It helps, to help an organization improve the way it manages health and safety. It's good public relation when you pass. It helps you to benchmark against, international standards, right? For example, those of us in Trinidad and Tobago, the standard for safety here is a local management system known as STOW, STOW. Those of us in Guyana, or maybe the wider world, the management system that is most common is ISO 45001. But Trinidad has been, trying to find the word. Trinidad has been, can't find the word, right? Like the word I'm thinking about is tainted. Trinidad has been tainted with STOW. Why I say tainted for? Because STOW is really, it's a good management system, but it's only for Trinidad and Tobago. So then how good is that? The minute you step out of Trinidad and Tobago, STOW doesn't carry any accreditation there, right? So if it's a company in Barbados or a company in Guyana, they are more concerned with ISO because ISO is international. But on the island of Trinidad here, STOW is rampant. STOW is like, every company has to have it. And so it's the benchmark for the industries here. But, I mean, those of us who know about that management system, we have our thoughts on it. And STOW has grown into a monster, really. STOW has grown into more of a dictatorship kind of approach than what ISO is, right? Those of us who know ISO, if you know STOW, ISO was more flexible, right? STOW is more dictating. Like if you don't have something the way STOW wants it, they will fail you. So there's no flexibility then. And like one of them is risk assessment. So we could tie in your risk assessment here, right? So like you all know your risk assessment project is supposed to use the 5x5 matrix, correct? For part 3 is supposed to use the 5x5 matrix, right? So STOW is like that. STOW says to use the 5x5 matrix. If you use anything else, you wouldn't pass STOW. But ISO, when they say do a risk assessment, you could make your own matrix. You can say 1 to 3. Like the point is once it's assessed, it is counted then, right? But STOW has grown into like especially locals. Well, you all know locals, and I don't want to say too much about that anyway, but subjectivity then, right? Store has grown into a monster. Somebody should take it and shoot it, and start the whole system all over again. And no, you're laughing. If you all know what I talk, store is more expensive than ISO. Store is more expensive than ISO, which is crazy because if I get store, I cannot go Guyana with that because I can't go anywhere with that because remember it's not international, right? And I was one of them who introduced, I was actually with the committee that introduced store here, but it was never meant to be how it is now. It's never meant to be so expensive. It was never meant to be so prescriptive. It's been abused then. And the person who brought it here was the guy that trained me, and he's from the UK. I think he's retired now, but again, maybe a decade into it, it wasn't meant to be like a ransom. Right now, store is like a ransom. Like you have to have that or nothing else. And it wasn't that, but probably he had his thoughts, but at least I didn't think that was what we had in mind when we wanted to bring in a management system. And for the life of me, I'm not too sure why the energy chamber didn't just go with ISO. Like why they didn't just push ISO? Because the rest of the world, we talk about benchmarking, right? So if you're benchmarking against another company, best practices is really ISO 45001, right? But you understand why I use the words now? Trinidad is tainted with the store management system, and it has grown into a huge monster, is how we could describe that thing anyway. Where today, look, last week Saturday when I was here, the coordinator was here. He was saying he was doing some work for a company and they are cutting grass. They are grass cutting company and they have to get store, right? And it was a small grass cut. I mean, it could be huge grass cutting companies. It was a small grass cutting company, right? And the idea with store and the audit was that it was meant to be a minimum requirement. Today it seemed to be like a maximum requirement. The idea behind store was that you meet a minimum requirement, but today if you don't have it, even if you have ISO, they don't want that. They want this too. This is for Trinidad, of course. If you're in Guyana, I always say, stick to your ISO because that is an international benchmark, right? So what the lesson does, right? If you turn the page, the lesson talks about how you can prepare somebody for an audit as well as prepare yourself. So if you want to turn the page, you'll see that the lesson talks about how do you prepare. You'll see it on page 30. How do you prepare a company for an audit and how do you prepare yourself, right? I want to say yourself because remember, it is hope that you as a safety will be part of the auditing process as well, right? Um, I'm not sure if you want me to tell you what audit is. There was a definition here. In layman's term, what an audit is you checking up on yourself or somebody checking up on you, right? And the idea with that is that nothing is ever perfect. There's always room for continuing improvement. However, you have to pass the audit, right? So it's the strengths and weaknesses, right? So you need to have more strengths. Otherwise, you could fail the audit. And what was wrong with that? A lot of things. Number one is that you'd have paid for it. And if you fail, well, then that may be like bad publicity. Then at the same time, your company may be looking at you then as a safety or part of the safety team to kind of get this passed because you want to use it. Like the company may want to say, look, we are STO certified or we are ISO certified to get a contract. If you can't get it, a lot of times this is the nature of safety, like I said, in Trinidad and maybe around the world too, that um, it's going to be difficult for you probably to be employed then if you lose certification for a company. You understand that? So this is serious business and that if the company is looking at the safety department to retain ISO or to retain STO or to get STO and you can't get it, it may just be the end of your job then because the company have to get it then, to kind of get the tenders and stuff. So in a way, that's what I said. I mean, like the first statement I made was what? STO was what? Sorry, not STO, but I said audits was what? Audits are good, but they are what? Anyone? Audits are good, but they are what?
Stressful.
Yeah, stressful, right? So they are seen to be good, but unlike the training, like training is good and training is not stressful. I mean, you gain from training, but audits is seen to be good as a KPI, but it's a lot of stress. It's a lot of stress, right? Um, you know, I don't like them. I don't think anybody like them, but there's a benefit to them anyway. Let's talk about the preparation. So if you are planning an audit, meet with relevant managers and employees to discuss and agree the date and times of the audit, what would be audited, and how auditees will be involved. Plan what procedures, processes, and documents you would want to observe, and you have to let them know that as well. Plan what evidence you'd want to see to help judge compliance. But I'll move on because there's no real question here, right? You need a system that relays non-conformances to those that are to be tasked to improve. Part of notification should involve suggesting a remedy. Notification records can be assessed as part of judging whether an organization is improving performance or not. During the audits, you need good interviewing skills, you need good listening skills. Always question how the system is performing rather than the person during the audit interview. Ask for the interviewer's opinion, have a good rapport with them, conclude on a positive note. And we almost finished. As a short this is, but I want to tie in something. I would tie in one little thing again, right? If you want to go to page 31. And again, like I said, there is no question here, but like, I mean, I think it's a good thing to know. Like on page 31 in the topic focus, it show you like what documents can be examined during an audit. And my answer to that is everything. An auditor could ask for anything, right? So the book has health and safety policies, rules and responsibilities, risk assessment and the control of any specific hazard, your trading records, skipping some, right? Minutes of the safety committee meetings, maintenance record, accident investigation reports, emergency arrangements such as fire prevention, your enforcement history, recommendation from other audits, right? There's no question there, but um, and I don't want to go too off track because I want to keep on track, but like the auditors just have a set of questions to ask, right? And like they will ask you for the documents. If you say chapter 2, right? Let's talk about chapter 2. If you say you have a safety policy, they will ask you where it is, bring it, let them see it. Then they will question the workers. They'll ask the workers, so like, do you all know what the safety policy is? Right? And another one, like risk assessments. If you say you have risk assessments, they'll ask to see it, right? And they may ask, well, who was the persons to do this risk assessment? So there's a lot of documents they ask for, right? Now, as we get into this one, if you want to turn your page to this one, page 32. So there have been one question here, which is straight from your book. They just ask the advantages and the disadvantages. So I can't remember how much marks, but maybe it was 5 marks. Uh, it could be 5 marks, like the advantages, 5 marks, disadvantages. It did not repeat. It came only once, right? The advantages and disadvantages of audits. Let's take it from the slide and I'll just check the book as well. So advantages of an internal audit. So what is an internal audit? An internal audit is you yourself doing it. You're checking up on yourself, right? The beauty about this is that you get to learn about your company before like a real audit comes around or an actual audit then, right? So the advantage is that it builds employee involvement and ownership. So they say in reality is different, huh? Right? I won't talk about that. Organization learns about itself. The team will know its business and its workforce. So you don't really get, I have done them, like you don't really get too much communication barriers then, right? Because the company would have said this week we are doing a rounds of internal audit. When they see Shadrach comes around please give him your undivided attention. And most people do that anyway, whoever the auditor is, right? If it's an internal audit. The disadvantage is that it can be subjective rather than objective, subjected to company politics, and then you may not have the time to do a good job. All of those are true, right? So subjected to company politics could be like your company may have had an accident, right? And then, so your CEO says to you, when you do this audit, don't talk about an accident, right? Like even if it's an internal audit, we're gonna use it for like a stakeholder, right? So we don't want to talk about the contractor that, slipped and broke his foot or something, right? And the other disadvantage is what I said. I don't know if you all could imagine what I'm telling you all, because I know some of y'all work, but some of y'all don't. Well, in safety now, right? So like if you're working, just think of yourself. If you're working, whatever your job is right now, right? And they tell you, right? Can you assist us in an internal audit? Right? Now, you and the supervisor manager may be good, so you say yes, but then you have your work to do, right? So this is something that you don't really get paid for. This is an internal audit. You have to do your job. And if you're a technician, if you're an accountant, then you have your books to do. If you're a technician, you have your pumps, rods, motors to service by the day. But then they keep saying, Shadrach, I thought you say going to help us out in the audit. You have 10 pumps. I just making this example up, right? You have 10 pumps to service for a customer, and your supervisor is on your neck then to get those pumps serviced because each one is 10,000 TT dollars, right? So when they say you don't have time to get a good job done, that is actually true, right? If you check your workday as an employee, of course, if your workday is one in which you are sitting down and you are skylocking on your phone and fine, but then you have a really nice job, right? So you can make time to do that internal audit. But if you are an active employee, like what I described, like an accountant, a technician, whatever, you in IT, you have your stuff to do. But this is something that they ask you to do and you want to get it done because it's your supervisor, whatever, or CEO. But take it from me, you don't really have time to get a good job done. You can get it done. But have you gotten a good job done is the issue, right? I hope you understand that. So you get it done, but was it good? A lot of times internal audits end up being just something you do because they ask you to do it. You get some learnings out of it. I mean, you learn from it, right? You can pull, you can say if you're doing an internal audit, let's pull 10 inspection forms. Let's see if the employees are signing it off. So you pick up, okay, some employees are not. So you get it done, right? But at the same time, you have your job to do, right? So do you all understand that? And if this question should ever repeat, you all can just, think about it a bit. I wonder if you all could think about another advantage, but you see, you all don't talk much on another disadvantage. Anybody can think of an advantage of using your own employees to do an internal audit? So the build ownership, you learn about yourself, the team will know its business, so you have less communication barriers. What's another advantage of an internal audit? Because NEBOSH is not asking three, they're asking five. But the beauty is you all have Google and you all have YouTube. They could just YouTube this thing or Google it and get it. Anybody, like if you're in the class here and you want to just, like what do you think is another advantage or maybe a disadvantage of using your own employees to do an internal audit?
Financial might be an advantage. You wouldn't have to pay somebody outside to do it.
Very good. Excellent point. I wish you all could take that down. Yeah, well, that's the thing that is that's the pride of the company, so we don't have to pay, So we don't have to pay you to get this done. Just get it to do it the same way. So an advantage is that it's cost cutting for the company, right? It's cost cutting for the company. If I go, companies hire me, as you all know, if I go, I charge according to the company. Actually, I don't really charge. I charge I charge the standard rate for Trinidad and Tobago, right? Some companies could pay more though, but we charge around, which is about $3,000 a day. It's actually a little bit more. It's 37.50. Just in case you want to know, right? 37.50 is like the consultant fee to do one of these things a day. But the company don't have to pay that, so it's cost cutting for them. Anybody could think of a disadvantage of an internal audit? I don't know what we have here, can be subjective, company politics, time to do a good job. What's a disadvantage of an internal audit? If not, I'll just give it, right? A disadvantage is that the people who are doing it are not really experts in anything. They're just normal employees, right? So a disadvantage is that that may not really be like seen then as a representation of a good audit because it's just your regular employees. I mean, like the question to ask is, have they been really trained to do an internal audit? Or have you just taken them because they have some time that month, right? Even if you do a half day training with them, with some companies, is half day enough to make somebody competent to do an audit? We try, I go in and I train companies with this. We try to do like 3 days, half day, and then have them do some of it. It works. Like I said, the system is never perfect. We do get good reports at the end of it, but are they really competent and thing? The answer is no. They are in that training because the company tell them they have to go and do that training and they have to do that anyway, right? All right. The other one, external. If you check your book, external. I have lost my page, but I would stick to this slide because there's only two hands I have, right? So external audits, the advantage is that you get an objective view. The person who doing it is normally a specialist and they will benchmark against good standards or international standards or acceptable standards. It have others, but just three here. The disadvantage is that they may be unfamiliar with your organization. They can get communication barriers between the workforce and the auditors. Another disadvantage is that external audits are expensive, right? STO is actually 20,000 TT plus, which as you know is not, like based on the economy now, that's not a little bit of money, right? STO is more than 20,000. In fact, if a company going for STO, you might as well have about 100,000 TT put down, right? And I could explain that, but I don't want to explain it now because there's a lot of things that companies have to come up to then. They might have purchased things, update risk assessments, buy PPE. So like anybody looking to go into STO, your company had a budget. Like the first thing we ask in the open meeting is what is our budget, right? Because it have things that have to fix, lines have to paint, uh, yards may have to be resurfaced, signage have to be bought. There's a lot. Like I'm actually doing 3 right now, right? So like one of those companies I'm doing, the first time I met with them, I didn't think they had the money, so I had to come out and ask. But then they reassured me that they had contracts, and I was able to see 3 of the contracts. So once, because like you don't want to start a job and then in the middle of the job, like the company can't pay you, right? So one of the first things is that, like to me, if I'm doubtful about a company, doubtful meaning this was like an old wooden structure. The company is housing an old wooden structure. Toilets was, broken down wooden doors. And I was willing to work with them. But they had to prove to me then that they had the money. And from the outside appearance, it didn't look like that, but they had contracts, right? And the contracts, could have paid for that anyway, right? All right, folks, as the end of this, let's get into the other one. Tell me if you have any questions. I did mention, this is an old question from before the pandemic. I did mention the passive was just like this. 5 advantages, 5 disadvantages. It came once, it didn't come after that. Tell me if you have any questions. I'm changing slides. All right, so we're getting into 4.2, which is this PowerPoint here. Right? No questions? You're a dream class, right? Hopefully you're not dreaming in class, but all right, 4.2, if you have your books, this is all about accident investigation. So if you want, I would, just get into it and sort of pause where we have the question. So let's do that, right? Let's get into this. So I'm going to use the PowerPoint. If you have your book, do 4.2, making sure I'm shouted for you. Page 11, page 12, and we're going to stop. We're going to stop where we have the participle, right? Which is actually page 14, right? The participle tend to focus on 14, 15. right? So you could turn your books back, but 14, 15, you can highlight that. And that's like where the past papers come from, right? Now, the other thing with this is that most exam papers have a question on this topic, right? So if you're waking or you're kind of sleep away there, audits is not 100% guaranteed. Like the one we just did, look at right there, right? Audit methodology, right? Audits is not in every paper. Few and far in between. In fact, just one. And was the same question that came back, right? But accident investigation, which is what we're looking at now, if you look at the heading, is in every paper. But at the same time, it doesn't come exactly like the textbook. It will more or less come like for you to comment on if they did the investigation the correct way, right? Let's have a go at it. Let's start right here. So the objective of this session to facilitate meeting towards the following themes: the process and purpose of investigating incidents. The review would have been what we just did, the audit methodology, meeting with the managers, discussing the date, the time, the two types of audits, right? Types of information to gather to review health and safety performance. That was like the HSE policy, risk assessment, how much accidents you have, the KPIs and stuff, right? That would have been the first part of the slide we just read. So the process and purpose of investigating accidents, the purpose of an accident investigation. So the efforts and the resources should be proportional to the extent of the problem. The purpose of an accident investigation to identify the causation, being the immediate and the root causes of the problem, to identify short and long-term corrective actions, to help the workforce learn about their failings to prevent the chance of recurrence, to show the workforce that management are committed to overcoming failure. Look at the heading, the purpose of accident investigation. To help review risk assessment, which is a legal requirement of the Management of Health and Safety Work Regulation 1999. And it's a legal requirement under another law in the UK known as RIDDOR. If you want, you can take down what it stands for, but you don't have to because it's an open book exam. You can turn the page and you can see what RIDDOR stands for as you go through 4.2, but I'll say it still. RIDDOR stands for reporting. If you're writing it, this is not an exam question, and this is actually sort of wasting time, right? Reporting of injuries, diseases, and dangerous occurrence regulation 2013. It's on page 25. Nobody will ask what RIDDOR stands for. I just, you know, going through with it, right? So for me personally, there are many purposes of an accident investigation. I could zone down on two main ones here. I think the two main purposes for an accident investigation is to identify the cause, second point, and the fourth point, to prevent it from happening again. I think that's the main purpose of an accident investigation. Yes, we're satisfying the law and everything here, but the reason why you're doing an accident investigation, yes, is the law, but you're really trying to prevent it from happening again, and you want to figure out what happened, why it happened, and well, how do we prevent it from happening again, right? Nonetheless, this is too easy. It's on the slide, it's not a passive question, right? So you need to categorize types of accidents and incidents as reporting and recorded them can develop trends in failure. Categorizing failures can help you rank them. This will help you to prioritize a remedy. Categorizing failure help you produce accident ratio triangles, which helps you to understand the statistical likelihood of the events relative to each other, right? Accident investigation procedure. So the efforts of an investigation would vary depending on the complexity and severity of the event. Taking a break so you all think about what it is I read now, right? A procedure is required to define a methodology to ensure a consistent approach to the investigation. A procedure is required to define who is responsible for what during an investigation, right? So just to explain, what they're saying is like the size of the investigation then depends on what has happened. The size of the investigation depends on what has happened. For example, if it is a first aid, well, you know, you alone could do that. you as a safety could investigate what has happened. Frank got a cut on the hydraulic machine or something, right? You yourself could investigate that. You and Frank, 'cause Frank has just a first aid, so he could go with you and he can see what has happened, right? But what if it's a debt? God forbid. So the efforts of the investigation would vary depending on what has happened, the complexity and the severity of the event. So what if it's a death? What if it's a serious accident? Right? So like for me, just one line here in my experience of me, if it's a serious accident, you had to go for the CEO, right? So like when they used to see me come knocking on the door, they know it's nothing good. And this was 10 years ago, well, more than 10 years or 14 years ago now. We still had cell phones, even it may have been a Nokia phone. But even without the cell phone, people used to know your business fast. An accident happened way down in another part of the plant, and the CEO, by the time you reach by the CEO office, he don't know, he don't know it had a forklift accident already, right? So, but because it's something serious, you may want to go for the CEO because you may have to think about what I said, God forbid if it's a death, right? You had to inform the police, you had to inform OSHA, you had to inform, like the coroner, right? If the person is part of a union, then the family members and folks I could talk from experience, but I don't want to, right? Like that phone call to the family members. I had a debt in a company, right? And then I had more than one debt, but one was in not in my school here, but an affiliated school, but one was in the company now, and one was an accident with a young man that got his hand sort of crushed in the mast of a forklift. So like calling the family members now, like like you'll have to have a senior manager there. Sometimes they just want to make the call. Sometimes if they're afraid, then you make the call. But calling the family members is never nice, even if it's the same. Look, your son is in the hospital. How do you tell? And I've had both. I've had the death one and I've had the serious accident one, right? But that's never nice. It's something that you had to kind of really, you know, sort of, build yourself up to make that call and say, to the father or to the mom or to the wife that, look, something has happened and, you need to meet us in the hospital, right? That's never nice. So that's what I said. The efforts of the investigation would vary depending upon what has happened. So sometimes you can handle it, and sometimes you need other management around you then, right? The other piece of this said a procedure is required to define a methodology to ensure a consistent approach to the investigation. So what are they talking about? Well, to make life simple for you, please take this down. To make life simple for you, what they are talking about is that you need an accident investigation form. You need a form. Because if you go to do the investigation, right, then what would you do? Are you going to be there with a file page and a pen? What are you doing? Right? So there's a form to an accident investigation. We can talk about some things on the form if you want. In fact, look at the top of page 15, right? But the point is that you need a form, right? So most companies have an accident investigation form. Now, if you don't have one, let me direct you to one. There's actually one in the course that they use in the UK. It's called F2508. You can get it some Google. Again, I don't know how enthusiastic you all are. I sometimes ask you all to put things on the chats. I sometimes see it, sometimes I don't see it. But if anybody research it, just put it in the chat. So this is the accident investigation form in the UK or the reporting form in the UK. Right? You can just go to Google. That's how you can get it. You can just go to Google and put F2508 accident. Like by the time you put accident, you'll see it come up for itself. Right? Now, for those of us in Trinidad and Tobago, yeah, we have one too. Ours is called Form 3. You can get it from Google as well, Form 3, Trinidad and Tobago, accident investigation form. it's a good idea to download it and keep it, especially if you're going to look for work and safety here. Now, most companies would have their own, right? Most companies will take what you have here and they'll have their own form. I'll just put your company X, but it doesn't really matter what version you get. An accident investigation form have a couple of consistent things in it then, right? So I'll just show 3 and then I'll go to the book. I could show 10, but I'll just show 3. And then we'll go to the book and see what they have. This by itself too, I don't think is a passive question, right? But what they're saying now, like you need to be consistent in your approach. So when you go down on a site or go up on a site and an accident has happened, what do you start recording, right? Anybody can give me a start or you want me to give a start? So I will give you 3. So 3 things to record. Well, I'll start easy. You want to record things like the date of the accident, the location, the employee. Anybody could shout something from your head without looking at the book. What are some things you want to record? But this is the heading and the form. So that's why they say be consistent. When you go to the form, you see date, you put the date. You see time of accident, you put time. You see location, you put location, right? So that's what they mean by consistent. Because you're not going to go there with a file page and wonder, I wonder what I should write down on this page, right? You know, I wonder what I should record here. Most companies have a form, and as you point about telling in the form. Anybody want to shout 1 or 2 things you think that should go on the form? Or that you think we need to record?
The employee age,
Employee age, what again? Thanks for the answer.
Sir, the name of the person
The name of the person, very
fill in the
good.
form.
Very good, yeah,
Fill
Vincent,
in the
yeah.
form.
What's the next one,
the
Vincent?
No, I was saying the name of the person who's filling up the form.
Right, okay, the name of the right. So the name of the investigator. So the name of the
Right.
name of the victim, but also the name of the person that's full under the form. Yeah, very good, Vincent. One more again.
Witnesses.
Witnesses, right? Okay, very good. So we'll stop there. Let's see what the book have. Those of us with the book, page 15. If you don't have the book, just download one of those forms. By the way, this is not, I mean, we covering content, how this course goes, right? I mean, this is not, I have not seen this question. I'm covering content for now, right? So the book have on page 15. I'll read about 5. I don't know if I read them in order. Page 15 to the top there, the writer said in the textbook have items that could be included on an accident investigation checklist could include personal details of the person involved, like their age, gender, right? If they want medication, time and location of the accident, type and severity of the injuries sustained. So is it first aid? Was it required hospitalization? Those things like a tick box. That's why I do my hand like this, right? They have like a tick box to put them in, right? Let me see. Somebody said witnesses. That's a very good answer. So witnesses is correct. Let me see. Details of the training and information received. Underlying medical condition of the injured person, right? So I don't think this list is in any way exhaustive. I think there could be way more than this. So I am saying, please, somebody in the group here, even though it's not, not everything is exam, right? Please download Form 3 for those of us in Trinidad, put it in the group chat. Somebody else download F2508, see if you can share it in the group chat. Open the form of it, see if you see what it happened. Just give me half a minute here anyway. All right. So we can move on. Let me move on to I'm moving on to this slide and to kind of get to where the exam questions is at, right? So have a look at the form, like I said. I'm not too sure if you're all sharing it. I've seen some things in the group chat, but I'll focus on this for now, right? All right. So the methodology, which is the form, will guide the investigator. It should prompt the investigator to dynamically assess whether or not it is safe to investigate. Should prompt the responsible person to report. Well, they report to the HSE in the UK, the Health and Safety Executive. If the event would have been a serious injury, disease, or dangerous occurrence. The format will prompt the investigator to determine who was involved, when, where, what, how, and to suggest any remedies, right? Oh, look, somebody put it, right? Like Daryl put one. Daryl, which is this one? This is Trinidad zone? This one looked like Trinidad. No, this this one from the UK.
No.
Yeah, this real good, right?
Yeah.
Folks, when I did my master's, we actually put like part of your master's study was actually to fill out one of that. Right? You actually had to fill it out then, right? But again, those of us in Trinidad and Tobago, please remember we do have our own form 3. I think you can get it from the Ministry of Labor website, but I know if you just put form 3. So Guyana too must have one. They must have a form. Those of us in Guyana, I think yours would also be under the Ministry of Labor. And I guess you can get it from that site anyway. But anyone is anyone because it's not a test on the form. It's just a test, just to tell like what the form does have in it, right? The name of the person. Let me see if we can bring up the one that Darrell put here. Right? And so thanks for that there. Even though, like I said, it was supplementary information, right? So they have here, on what date did the incident happen as the first question? At what time did the incident happen? So we have covered that. That's in the book already anyway, right? So when you get some time, you could run through it. It is supplementary, I would suggest, and it's also good information, for investigators anyway, right? So the format should involve the assessment of the area where the event took place, assessment of relevant documents associated with the event. For example, risk assessments, you may ask to see the records, training records, maintenance records, inspection records. Interviewing witness is a space for that on the form. The format should highlight investigation resources required. For example, do you need specialist help, like competent persons? Also, you should know if you need, but all investigators should have access to these, a camera, tape measure, notepad, pen, PPE, RPE, etc. The list goes on to based on what type of accident it is, right? If it is like a chemical accident, you may need to have on a coverall, boots, disposable gloves, right? So the resources required is actually based on the work and possibly the severity then, right? If something severe has happened, if somebody fainted then, right, based on a gas release, but then you probably would need a respirator yourself because you can't be putting yourself under harm's way, right? All right, so there are always more than one reason for an accident. An accident will involve a direct or immediate cause or causes, indirect or root causes. Direct or immediate causes to an accident are due to unsafe acts or conditions. Indirect or root causes are attributed to management failures. Heinrich single causation domino theory. Heinrich said a preventable accident is one of 5 factors in a sequence that results in an injury. The injury is invariably caused by an accident, and the accident in turn is always the result of the factor that immediately precedes it. There are 5 steps Heinrich would have proposed why an accident happened. He said part of it was due to ancestry and social behavior, attitude and behavior. Some of it could have been the person's fault, which he said was genetics, unsafe acts and or mechanical or physical hazard. You have the accident and you have the injury. Remove one domino and the injury can be prevented. The Heinrich theory was later amended by 2 British, psychologists. This is their last name. This was actually Frank, was his first name, Frank Bird and Loftus. They said as an extension of the domino theory, they took out some stuff from it. They said an accident is actually not part of your ancestry or part of your fault. It's not part of your genetics, but it's part of a lack of control by management. Then you can have basic causes, which is personal and job factors. Immediate causes, unsafe acts and unsafe conditions, the accident, and then the loss, right? Multiple causation theory, the theory relates to a combination of random events that contribute towards the cause of an accident. Therefore, there's always more than one reason why an accident occurred or even might occur. If we look at the multiple causation theory, someone slipped, resulted in a broken arm, but if you ask why, the person was rushing about, there could have been grease on the floor, and there could have been poor lighting. But then you ask why again, and you end up with a lot more underlining or root causes anyway, right? Okay, so I think I'm ready to explain because we almost finished, right? Yeah, so let me just read this one out and then so person should be assigned corrective actions who are able, responsible, and accountable. Persons assigned corrective action should be given deadline dates. Corrective action should be short and long-term. Action plans are a good way of representing who will do what by when. Interviewing a witness, you could have two types of interviewing approach, the informal type, one-on-one, or the formal type in which you may have a trade union representative and probably even like a legal person there as well. When you're interviewing witnesses, interview as soon as possible. You need to explain the purpose of the interview to the worker, which is to gain the facts, right? It's not to fire anybody. You can ask who, when, where, and what, and how type questions. Use open questioning. Open questioning will ask the person, can you describe? An open question does not end in yes or no, right? Interview the person, don't interrogate. Don't ask why did you not look where you were going. Don't ask why questions. Don't interrupt and put words in the interviewer's mouth. Let the interviewee do all the talking. Establish a rapport with the interviewee. Initially, the line manager should interview. It's best to carry out the interview at the scene of the accident because it enhances recall. Witnesses can point to things rather than have to think about them and describe them later. Witness information is more accurate at the scene. Concluding the interview, repeat the witness account to the interviewee. Normally it's written down anyway. It allows the witness to hear his or her account and add any details previously omitted or expand some points in order to make them clearer. When the investigator and the witness are both satisfied that the true account has been given, the interview should be concluded on a positive note. This is best achieved by discussing any ideas the witness might have regarding the prevention of a similar occurrence, right? So I wanted to read it out and then come back to the past paper, right? So if I had paused there, I was not sure if we would have finished. So we are finished and there's only one more lesson remaining for next week, Saturday. However, back to the exam focus now, right? Back to the exam focus now. So the exam focus is this slide right here. If you want to look at page 14, and I'll just kind of put it, I'll just kind of shout it out for you because we don't have, I mean, we have time, right? But just to focus on it, right? So listen to what they ask and please make notes as we go along. So most questions, well, most questions may be just general, like comment on how the accident investigation process was. And the case study would help you with that. If it said, like the manager was irritable or the manager said, this is your job. But that's an answer right there. You can say, in my opinion, the accident investigation was not supported by managers. As it was mentioned, the manager said, safety is your job and not mine, right? So most questions are open. That's the best thing about the open book exam. It's too easy. But if they deviate, and they have deviated, what they have done in some sittings, they have asked students, watch me with this one, right? And you can watch page 14, it's the second point, it's step 2, which is what this is here. Step 2 is like the most tested step. Page 14, they have 4 steps to do an accident investigation. Gather the factual information. We'll come back to that one just now. But step 2 is the most commonly examined step. Step 2 says analyze the information and draw conclusions about the immediate and the root causes. So Watch me with this one, right? There are some questions that asks, what are the immediate causes of the accident? 10 marks. And next question, right? I put it down here. What are the root causes of the accident? So how do you know what is immediate? How do you know what is root? What is right on this slide? Thank God for that, right? Look at right here. So the immediate causes, if you want me to break this down for you, I'm just paraphrasing now. The immediate causes are kind of due to you, or your working condition. Immediate causes are due to you or to your working condition. Look at right here, acts, right? Unsafe acts. You are responsible for your unsafe acts and unsafe conditions. So like if the floor was wet, that is an unsafe condition. Trying to see what I was going to write here. What was going to write there? Unsafe acts. Oh, unsafe condition, right? So immediate causes are due to you as well as unsafe conditions. So if they ask you for what are the immediate causes, so could you all tell me if this answer is correct? If I say an immediate causes is that, I'm trying to remember one from the exam. If I say an immediate cause was that there was poor lighting, would I get that correct or would I get that wrong? If I say an immediate cause is poor lighting in the warehouse, and I could quote in the passage where it was said, like the bay lights were broken and they have not been repaired in the last 6 months. Would I get that correct or would I get that wrong? For an immediate answer.
That would be correct, because it's a
Very good, Shirley. Very good. Yeah. Okay. Okay, let me give you another one. If I say the immediate cause is a lack of resources from managers, would I get it correct or would I get it wrong?
That's wrong.
Wrong, because you see, okay, watch it here. It says wrong. Immediate causes, look, I put in this was stuff I'm not telling you all now. Immediate causes is only due to you or the condition. So if the case study said, let me give you one from a case study. If the case study said the employee was using his mobile phone while operating the forklift, is that a correct answer for an immediate cause?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Yeah.
it is, right?
Yes,
Okay,
sir.
good. So the reason why I asked it earlier is because others mix it up. When I say earlier, I mean you're a representative of students in general, right? Students just mix it up. Like, you have to remember today's lesson. Look at right in your book there, right? You could underline immediate and root, and you could write in your book, immediate is you an unsafe condition, right? So root causes though is due to management. Root causes is due to managers, like the managers not providing resources, or if you want, I'll tell you what this means, right? I'll flesh this out for you in a bit. So root causes is management. Root causes is not you. Root causes, these are the things the managers could fail on. Supervision, right? If you read the case study and they said it had no supervisor or no first aider, well then that's a management issue, right? Things like supervision, things like a lack of training, lack of money, lack of commitment. The case study will help you with that, right? So if the case study said, the employees were requesting training, anything like the manager is supposed to do, you could read through the case study. And if they didn't do it, well, then that is a root cause. But the day you mix it, you'll get it wrong, right? So supervision, training, I'll put the money sign here, the dollar sign. Anything they say like managers not doing, like they say the manager like not communicating. I'll put in some of the bigger one there. Supervision, training, like instructions was not clear, right? Like there was no JSA, there was no permit to work. All of those things is down to managers, right? I was telling you, look, I'm trying to see where I put this result sheet. I guess the coordinator may have taken it. But you know, folks, you pass this exam, right? Based on what you do on the day of the exam, right? You could have been the best student, the worst student, which you were not. Nobody here. I can safely say that, right? I mean, I told you that in the beginning. It's not nothing that I'm not, there are some classes I would just tell you, this is your last class, goodbye, right? but you all are not like that, right? And so you all have never been, disrespectful in any way at all. You all have never been, you all have always been, what tertiary level should be then, right? But like the last class I had, I was telling you all, and I just said it doesn't really matter though. Like you pass this exam based on the day of the exam, right? So I had a student of mine, like how I could call Vincent, some of y'all I meet you all, and so I met this student, and the thing is, though, he didn't pass, right? And that's the thing with NEBOSH. It don't really have nothing to do with me. It have to do with you and NEBOSH, right? So he was saying he don't know how he feel, and the thing is, I don't know either because remember you pass exam based on the day of the exam, and he was a good student. And the girl that got 81, I've communicated with her, right? The guys that got 71, I have communicated, but I really don't know their name. I have to look in the sheet to see what is the guy name who got 71, right? The girl who got 81, I know her, but we never had any big conversation other than the normal classroom discussion. That's what I'm trying to say now. Like, it had nothing to do with me, it have to do with you, right? And so anyway, a long story short, the guy who I know his name, so he asked me to review his paper, which I don't really do because remember the paper is in the UK, right? Like my opinion is not really valid then, right? In that sense. But I told him, what may have happened is that you may have mixed up some things, like I was telling you here, right? Sometimes somebody will have 10 answers in it or 15, but you didn't answer the question. And as I saying, sometimes folks, when you get an exam paper, right? I finished it for today, and remember we reached the end of the slide. When you get an exam paper, right? Don't be too hurry, right? Could I talk to you all about that a bit? Because we kind of finished anyway, right? Don't be too hurry to start. It's about 8 questions, right? So if you tell yourself you have an hour for a question, take your time and read the question over now. Read it 1 time, 2 times, because sometimes you see when they say immediate causes, like you mightn't see that there now, right? And then you started write everything about I talking to you and I'm trying to find a past paper. I didn't load up any because I have past papers loaded in them, but it's not for you all. If you'll give me a minute, I could try to load one up. I have past paper loaded for the degree students, which is the class coming up, right? Bear with me a bit. So yeah, like when you get a question, the day for the exam, like I remember telling you, a student called me 2 o'clock in the day. And again, folks, this is not representative of anything. I'm just telling a story, right? He called about 2 o'clock in the day. There was this year in and he said he finished. Now, I kind of got a little bit shocked. But remember, exam have nothing to do with me, right? So it's not about finishing now. It's not about, you all may be looking at the Olympics and stuff, I haven't had much chance to look at it, but it's about finishing well, right? And so if you get a question, take your time and read the question. Take your time, all right? Like if it's 8 hours, you have until it's 8 questions, right? But you have 24 hours. I am just saying, if you put an hour on a question, but do it good, right? Don't be hurried to say you finish, right? Now, September is also, for a lot of us, when school is open in government school, secondary school. So if you have kids to go and pick up, kids to drop, but remember you have the night, I think it's about 6 or 7 o'clock local time, Wednesday to 6 or 7 Tuesday morning, right? So don't be in a hurry to just do the thing and hand it up and then say you finished and then you didn't pass. And the truth is the guy who did that, the guy who called me and said he was finished 2 o'clock, he did not pass, right? So take your time, right? So 22 minutes, I should probably wrap up, right? So can you see the passive in the background here? Okay, so just telling you, right? Like when you get a paper, watch this question on top here, right? Number 4. This is like what we're doing today. Maybe I could send you this tonight. I'll probably put it up on the... No, you all do use Google Classroom. I'll have to carry home the register. if I have to send you this tonight, right? But like when you get a question, right, read from the top. Accident investigation procedure and communicating health and safety. Take your time, read, right? Read it again. Accident investigation procedure and communicating health and safety. Why should the scene of the accident have been secured immediately after the accident? Why should the scene of the accident have been secured immediately after the accident? Right? That's an easy question. I can just go to Google and just Google up, why should an accident scene be secured? Right? Now, when I get the first article, don't just be too hurry one time now. Google it again. Go on the HSC website. It's an hour. I'm telling you, take an hour to question. I could give you the 7 answers now. Anybody could think about why should an accident scene be secured? Think for yourself. Why it is you want to secure an accident scene immediately after the accident? Why would you want somebody now fall down, slip on some oil or something and fall? Why it is you want to secure the scene? You really don't need Google enough. Anybody can give me an answer. Why you think you want to secure the scene?
So it can prevent the accident reoccurring, like where the aisle, somebody just go and slip and fall as well, and then you get two people
Okay,
now
good,
slipping.
good. So you want to kind of prevent another accident. Very good, Vincent. Another one?
In my
So that
opinion,
nobody
it would-
interferes with the scene.
Yeah.
Like tampers with the scene.
Okay, well, let's hear from Shilly. Shilly, sorry, I'll go for Shilly first and then I'll come back to that one. Yeah, sorry, yeah, go ahead. Shilly. Oh, so sorry, I think Shilly has muted herself.
I would have said, in my opinion, to avoid like what they said earlier, anything from reoccurring, and to avoid people tampering with any evidence in terms of the investigation.
Very good.
That is
Remember,
all.
that's 2 answers, so each one is a point, right? And like Google the thing and then tie it back to the case scenario. Like if they said tampering or if somebody said further accident, you just go to the case study and find the line, right? How could improvements in communication have helped to prevent the accident? You should consider verbal, written, and visual communication in your answers. So 6 marks. So I will do 2 each. I'll get like, how could verbal, I'll think of 2 ways how verbal communication could have prevented the accident. Like maybe personally talking to the worker but they say verbal, right? So one-on-one conversation, maybe in the toolbox meeting, that could be 2. Written communication, how could written communication have prevented the accident? We can talk about maybe like a memo or maybe like a job description. Visual communication, maybe like a video or maybe like a signage, right? So 2, 4, 6. This is an excellent question. But you had to learn to take your time, right? Understand the question. And this is what I'm telling you. Some people, I don't see why anybody should be nervous for a 24-hour exam because you have a lot of time, right? But when you do the thing good, right? Next week, what I'll do, I'm going to finish off chapter 15. And I'm also going to focus a bit on some passive techniques and what you saw me doing here. We have done some before, but I'll go back to that next week. We're actually going to take a question and kind of do it. We can do more than one next week. The session 15, if you all have your PowerPoint, is about 10 slides long. It's not very long. We'll finish by 9:30. And then we'll probably take the time and we'll do 2 passive questions next week in the live itself, right? Folks, I do have to stop. So thanks for your time. And I'm going to try to get your payments in. Remember, you all paid for your exam. So we're still fighting. I'm waiting on a confirmation from someone who have a large, credit limit. And try to see if we can get some of you all paid with that. Some of you all have been paid for already, as you all may have gotten some confirmation, but we're going to try Monday. Well, this week coming up here is like the Friday for me is the cutter point to pay for you all anyway, right? So I'll let you know how that goes. In fact, you will know how it goes because once we pay for you all, the bank, NEBOSH will contact you all and let you all know that you have been paid for your exam, right? Let me stop the recording here and just one